we need to remove the currently installed sys system and disassemble everything that we don't need. And one thing that is maybe useful information about this printer is that it was used for a sublimation for a short period of time. Then we've tried to pour ink DTF ink inside the already. We washed out the sublimation ink, but it's not gonna work. So do not try to use sublimation printer that has been previously used as sublimation now as a DTF, because it won't work. What's gonna happen, there's some reaction between the two inks. You might be able to wash most of sublimation ink out, but there's always gonna you'll always gonna have some remains of the ink inside the damper or the tubes or the outside tanks itself. So when you pour the DTF ink on the sublimation ink, you will have a reaction, and it creates some of this. As you can see over here, there's a small filter over here that is in front of the exit of the damper. It creates larger pigment particles that stick to the filter when the printer is trying to, or the pump is trying to pull the ink through the head, and they clog this filter, these larger particles that are created when the two inks mix. So you're just gonna blow the dampers and maybe even the head, so do not try to pour DTF ink on the sublimation printer. It's not gonna work. So that's one information plus onto the disassembly of this printer. So you've already seen it's similar like 1500, but one more thing, we're gonna use the chassis from L1800, but we're gonna the outside casing will be from 1400 because it's a bit smaller, takes a little bit less space. So it's more practical for installing onto the carrier for the printer itself. So we're just gonna use chassis from here and casing from the older model. So it's similar, like I think we had something in the previous videos where we disassembled the 1500 for the UV. Almost the same thing with a few differences, because 1500 doesn't have pre-installed sys system. It also uses ordinary cartridges, or if you install the sys system yourself. So it doesn't have a Wi-Fi. So we're gonna see how this is done also, and maybe we will do a 1400 just to have them all filmed, but this is not that different from 1500. The casing is was firstly produced for the 1500, and it's used later on these newer models. So that's the same casing, and also the chassis. The first chassis of such type was installed in 1400 and also remained for other newer models that were coming out. But it has some differences, some less or more wires and technology added, but for our purpose we only always use the same thing. So you have a couple of covers over here that we need to release in order to have this side parts to come off. On the right side it's a bit more you need to put in a bit more effort than on the left side, but it's nothing too complicated. Okay, so yeah, you need to remove these front covers over here. Pretty simple. Now we can remove that one is already moved. We can move this one, so you have to kind of the same time you have to push it a bit to the front and lift the cover up to release it. Okay, something is still hooked. So now it's not so important to keep everything. Oh yeah, what I forgot is to release the rear side. We got some plastics on the rear. All right, so you have to move this one first. Okay, so now comes off with no problem. Right, so we should be able to lift this main cover if we release this screws, 2 screws on each side on the front, left and right, and also one more behind. Okay, so we got these 2 over here. Okay, this one is already removed because there were some modifications on this one before. All right, we can put that aside for a moment. Okay, so maybe we could do something. Let's disassemble this front part first, because it'll be easier for other stuff to be removed. So maybe if you've seen some previous videos, you also have to do the same thing. Unscrew on the same places, like on 1500. Basically it's the same, all the same casing. All right, so now maybe we could get rid of the system over here. So now you see how it's installed. It has this white carrier for the pipes to be unfolding correctly, so we're gonna move that off. That's the thing you don't have on the 1500, so maybe now we can get rid of that, so we can have a better view of other stuff. So it has a couple of screws over here. We're gonna check to see if there are some more beneath the pipes, but I don't think there's some kind of a, yeah, it comes off pretty easy. Maybe there's some kind of hooks from below. unhook these two. Right, there's one more over here. Okay, and there's one more over here between the pipes, so this is how I'm gonna get rid of those. Okay, so this plastic that goes beneath the tubes is 3 parts. We got rid of 2. Okay, one more part over here which has a screw beneath the tubes where they're entering. Okay, so now you see, pretty simple. Just move that aside. So we will be maybe needing this part over here, but let's just we don't even have to remove it for now. We're gonna see later if we're gonna need it. Let's just keep it there for the moment. So what else is most accessible is maybe removing this paper roll. So you got cable connected, this disconnect that, remove these 2 screws on the right side. Got one more on the left, so we're gonna move this tapes that are holding the cables inside, and yeah, we could also disconnect. We cannot disconnect it from the board, we can disconnect it from the sensor over here, and this one is already disconnected. These are disconnected. Okay, we got that off, and this, so this screw is over here, and there's gonna probably be a couple of hooks on the front that are holding the paper roll inside. Those are these 2 metal hooks, brackets, however you want to call it. They need to come off, and in case if you're doing some repairs with your printer, this is a part which is those 2 pieces are not really necessary for work, so you don't have to bother with putting them back, especially if you are disassembling the printer for some other use than the ordinary printer or DTF. So now when that came off, we should be able to lift the roll up. Oh yeah, we got that ground connected over here. Forgot about that. So we have to remove the wire and put the screw back for the motor. Alright, we can move that off. What else? So now maybe we could we're gonna remove this pipe. This used to be already modified for the sublimation. Alright, so when we lift the whole chassis up, first we need to unscrew the chassis from the bottom. when we lift it up, everything's gonna come with the chassis. So that's what we want. A couple of screws on each side are holding the chassis inside the bottom carrier. Okay, so I think we should be able to lift everything up now. Right, so we have to also release this, remove the bottom. Okay, we won't be using this anymore. We're gonna disconnect it. So maybe you've noticed that this tubes over here are a bit more grayish or brownish. That's because the sublimation ink is kinda aggressive to the plastic. It won't eat it up, but it will change the color of the plastic a bit. So that's how you know that this printer has been working with something else than the ordinary ink. Alright, so we will be needing this cables over here. Just gonna quickly remove that. And we also have to this is the version that has cable connected without connector, so we actually have to pull the cable out of those holders to have to free the motor and the pump. The pump doesn't have connector over here also, like on 1400, so that part is a bit different. It's better, easier when it has connectors over here, but probably they wanted to save some money in the production or something like that. So this is the ground wire that went to the paper roll. We don't need that no more, but we do need the ground wire for pump. And actually originally they put this longer screw. I prefer to put the shorter one because there are gears behind this and stuff, so, and it's gonna save you sometimes, because you will be eventually disassembling it again. Alright, so what's next? We could be disassembling this front part, which is also a bit different. It has this carriers for the front plastic part, so we can remove that, but it's a pretty good piece of metal for some other projects. You always use this L profiles with holes. That is also often useful for something else. So you can keep those for something. Alright, so let's deal with this front part a bit. To get this part out, you have to remove this small part on the left. We're gonna be putting that back later, but now we just want to clear it off of the unnecessary stuff. Okay, so basically every screw that you see on this part has to be removed. You can also unscrew this too on the top, but you can also deal with them later. These front ones are important. So you see, if you've left these two on, they hold this part that you can now remove by unscrewing those two. It's more easier this way, although you could be doing it other way around. So now you see, just unscrew these two and you got this whole mechanism beneath off, so you can place that into recycle. All right, now what we should remove is this bottom inside the chassis. How we do that: first we want to remove this front shaft. Pull this up, turn it around, push it out. Okay, and you have a couple of wires on the sides holding it inside, so you have to unhook that. Okay, so now if you have problems pulling it out over here, then you should release this part beneath the shaft, and it's holding here with one screw that you have to also move, but you will probably need to keep this part in order to put it back later, so you can get some sturdiness. Okay, so we got that out. We don't need this plastic gear or sprocket, and we do need to, if we're gonna keep this part for sturdiness, we do wanna twist this piece, because we don't want it to be in the way for if we're gonna make it so for the waste ink over here. But this is an L1800, so probably the head, if we don't use the electronics from 1800, if we use some other electronics on this chassis, then we're gonna have to put the waste ink, small waste ink, on the left. We do have to twist that piece inside, but if we're gonna be using the electronics from original from L1800, then we don't need any waste ink, small waste ink over here, because it's only cleaning on the right. So that's one more difference between these newer models and the older models. All right, so what else we need to, I think we could be, let's just pull this wire out because it's holding the thing inside. Okay, there's one more over here on the main shaft. Right, so I think we should be able to get it out. It comes off by itself. So let's not waste time, but you can also remove this metal pieces, 2 metal pieces inside for recycle, but let's not lose time now with the filming. Okay, so now now we should be able to reach the screws that are holding this power supply casing in the rear. So basically, again, all the screws that you've seen that might hold the casing, power supply casing on this side, you have to remove them. And also there's gonna be some plastic pieces that are useful to us. A couple of them might be hidden, so you'd have to look a bit better in order to see them, like these two on the very bottom part. Below all this stuff that we're gonna be also moving off. Okay, I hate when things are falling off the table, but sometimes it is so. Let's see if it's gonna come off. I think we should be getting it off now. Something, oh yeah, you have one more here on the side, behind the motor that is driving the main shaft. Forgot about that one. Okay, so comes off very easily. What else should we do now? So we have to get to the main shaft, and we still have to remove this metal part over here. But first, let's deal with this is the cable for the sensor. We should move that first. So just have to pull the cable out and push it from push the carrier from the front side like this. Okay, so now we can get to the so this part over here that is holding those pieces above the main shaft has 3 screws, which also have to be removed. So we're getting rid of that too. How do you remove it? First you unscrew this 3 screws, and also he has a couple of hooks on the front that you have to push to get it off. Something is still holding. One more. Okay. Okay. Got it off. So we need to remove the springs. Alright, so just pull it to the back some are maybe stuck. You maybe would have to apply some more force. All right, get this off, and now should be pulling this out. Doesn't matter if you break something, because this is only plastic that will go to the recycling, so not that important. Okay, so we got 3 screws over here, one over here that is holding the big metal part beneath the main shaft, and also we have one more screw hidden over here behind the motor that is driving the shaft, so we're gonna have to get rid of the motor too in order to get that hidden screw. But first let's get rid of this. Okay, they're very tightly screwed, but so you have 3 screws holding the motor on the chassis. So two are visible on this side, one is here on the side. All right. Okay, so you have to move the belt from the gear, the sprocket, whatever. So this one is pretty tight. You have some loosen up pretty. This one is tight for a change. Okay. So one more screw over here, and we should be able to get, oh, these are tight. We should be able to get to the last one. All right, so there's the one we were looking for. Okay, so let's see if it's gonna come off. Not really. Something is still in the way. It's not coming off. Maybe I forgot something. I don't know. I don't think so. It should be coming off. I have no idea what's holding it inside. There's a screw that is stuck between in this hole. How did that get there? Okay, now we got it off. And now we can get the main shaft out. But first we need to move this sensor off also. Because it's standing in the way for the shaft to be pulled up. All right, so it has one screw, and you also have to push the hook from the inside. We can pull this off like this. Okay, we don't need this sprocket over here. All right, so I think the shaft must be pulled through this hole over here, and there's also a bit of a plastic here in the way, so maybe we should be able to moving it out of the way, but we must put it back the way it was. And actually this piece is not, it's usually marked. I don't know why it isn't marked over here on this printer, but we're gonna just mark it so we could know what teeth to put the sprocket back. So you see, you have to release it like this, but when you move it, you don't know where should it be placed later. But now we know it's somewhere around. If you missed one tooth, it's not gonna be a big problem, but you don't wanna miss the whole thing, because you might be experiencing some problems with the head clean and so on. The head might not be sitting straight on the capping station, so you won't be having good head cleans, and we certainly don't want that to happen. Okay, so now we can get the shaft out. Kind of tricky, but when you do it a couple of times, it's gonna go. Okay, so you just simply pull it out like this, and it has this ring that is holding the springs and other stuff in the place. So if you're gonna use this, it's best to put it back the way it was, because you don't want to lose it, because this could be also a spare part for some stuff. Although this is not the best spare part, because you can see the ink was dripping all over it, but the encoder is pretty clear, so it's gonna be useful nevertheless. Okay, so now we can place back the stuff we've cleaned out of necessary parts. Okay, so it's gonna be fewer screws holding it now, but it's the fewer ones that are important. Okay, we need this part back. So now if you are having problems with putting this one back, you wanna lower the head carrier manually down. Okay, Got it back. Right. One more. And maybe to just have a little more sturdiness, we would want to put back this piece also, because we will be cutting the chassis, and this takes a bit of a force, and we don't want to twist something or bend something, so we want to have the chassis with all the sturdiness possible. So that's going to help us a bit. Right, what else? Okay, we're good there. So now let's check this. Okay, we don't need this part. That's the ring that holds the main shaft into place. We don't need that no more. Okay, and the pump is probably is good, because I don't see the sublimation ink is not the ink that is rubberizing or clogging these pipes over here. So if it's not gonna work, we're gonna change that also, but it doesn't require that much, doesn't require cleaning at all, because it's pretty decent condition. So we're gonna try to print just the way it is right now, without any major cleans or repairs. Maybe just to scrape this ink over here a bit, nothing much. This is pretty decent condition for the pump, so we're gonna try to use it as it is. If we experience some problems, we will be changing it, but let's just see first if it's gonna pump. So one more thing that we have to do, maybe these parts over here will be in the way for the table moving, so it won't be touching them, but it's best just to push them inside so they're not in the way. So I'm gonna need a hammer or something like that, or my colleague here has a different technique if you don't have a hammer beside you, but this part will go this way, but this part we're gonna have to hammer it back a little bit so it's not in the way. But other than that, we are now ready for cutting, and we're gonna cut it over here and over here, and that's gonna be ready for installment.